have about 19 people on the call. I see we also have Debbie, Gary and I are doing the training today, and I see Jordan Bergstresser's on here. Hi, Jordan. She's our KidKare representative for Louisiana, so she'll hopefully stick around to answer some questions at the end. So today we just wanted to do a refresher for you guys. I know when we come out to do your pre-approval visits, we're throwing a lot of information your way. And so we just like to give you an update on just a little refresher so that things are, new and fresh in your mind. Because I know when we go over everything, some things get lost in the wash. So today, we're just going to touch on the main topics about the food program. And if you guys have any questions, we'll have some time at the end, hopefully, to go over those with you. So I know that we're doing a transition, and Linda Lambert, our boss, just announced that our KidKare is going to be mandatory October 1st. So everything that you guys, if you're on paper forms, we want to get you up to speed on KidKare. We have 2 documents for you, which are going to be on our Louisiana Fit Kids site here after the training, probably in about a week or so. And these things are your checklists for what you need to do on KidKare to meet the food program requirements. So we have 2 different checklists. One is for our single site centers. That's just a 1-pager. And then our if you have more than one site, you have extra steps. So you'll do KidKare and Minute Menu. You have 2 different programs to do with. I mean, it's the same program, but we have different checklists for you. So make sure when you go there to get your checklist that you pick the correct one, either single site or multi-site. And it's just kind of laid out for you. Right now, we have the 16 file folder method. And when we come out, we give you those labels, and it's a little checklist of what goes in your file folder. Well, this is the replacement for that. And so all you need to do is go down the checklist. And if you do everything on these, then you'll meet our requirements. And it's got some little hints on there because the software is new for y'all. It's new for us too. And it will help you figure out where to go to do those things. And it's also got the help addresses for KidKare if you get stuck. So be on the lookout for that. So just an overview of the child and adult care food program. What are the requirements? We give you this money to be able to reimburse yourself for food, and these are the things that you need to be able to say, hey, I am a good steward of this money, and you can, when you get audited, we check these things out, and the feds can come in and audit the same. And here's just the basic requirements for what are we looking for when we come out on a review. So you have your agreement, which is what you have with the state agency. When you first signed up, you signed this agreement that you were going to do these things. So you should have a copy of that. And we do have a copy at the state office. So your menu worksheets, we're looking for documentation that you've served enough food on the food program. So it is just where you're going to mark out how much food you cooked for that meal and how many kids ate. And that way we can make sure that you meet the minimum requirements for how much food that you've served. Your point of meal service and your production records. So you're just checking, your point of meal service is that hey, we have these kids, they're all enrolled in our centers, and these are the ones that are eating when I bring the food. So it's kind of an edit check for you to make sure that you're not claiming too many or too little children for that particular meal. So your meal count and attendance records and your enrollment records are important for the same reason. You're going to take your point of meal service, and if you're using paper forms, you're going to mark it on your meal count and attendance records. Or if you're on Minute Menu, you're going to click on that fork and knife right there, and that is just to show us. Sometimes kids will come in the morning and you'll have them down for attendance, but they might leave early. So maybe little Susie left and she didn't eat lunch. Well, we marked her in attendance, ate breakfast, but she's not marked for the meal count for lunch, and that's okay. It just helps to show that your meal counts are accurate. So when you spend money out of your food program account, you're going to need to keep documentation that you spent that money on something that's approved. So the feds have a laundry list of things that you can buy with food program money. And then when you submit your budget application, you tell us how much you want to spend on these things, and we say yes or no, or we modify together. So if you spend money out of your food program account, we want you to keep something that shows what that money was spent on. So if you go to Walmart, we want that receipt. It's got to be itemized. I mean, if we show up and you go to the farmer's market and it just says, you know, this farmer for $100, well, we're going to need to see what you bought there just to make sure that it's creditable. So make sure that your receipts are itemized, and anything that you write out of your food program account, keep a paper copy, some type of documentation to show what that was spent on, so that we can verify those receipts. So any invoices, any late time and labor sheets, you want to put that in your monthly folder. You also need to keep your bank statements for your food program account. And we're going to come in and check. And you should also be checking to make sure that everything that's written out of that account is food program related. So when we come in, we like to see the canceled checks just to make sure, because sometimes, and everybody makes mistakes. So we do have a system to allow for that on your disbursement journal, which we'll talk about in a second. But while you're filling out your disbursement journal, which is basically your check register, if you happen to make a mistake, you can pay your food program account back and just mark it on your disbursement journal. And you can also put those line items in your KidKare account too. So your claim summary and your site reimbursement worksheet, we have an electronic version on our website, but it's also helpful to print that in case you have a power outage and you get a review. You can print that and put that in your monthly folder too. And it just shows that all the documentation that you have, the menu worksheets, the meal count and attendance records, that you compiled all of that and entered that into our system. And it's just a way to document that you did those edit checks and that you claimed what you actually served there. So your inventory sheet is, right now, it's one of the only sheets that we have on paper that's not on KidKare. The inventory and the timesheets are not. So you still have to do those to meet our food program requirements. And that's just everything that's unopened at the end of the month. Just follow our inventory sheet that's on our website and it'll walk you through. There's directions on that. So we touched on the timesheets, but also if you remember when you do your budget application, 50% of the money that you're getting from the food program has to be spent on food. So every month we ask you to do this cost of food use worksheet to make sure that you're spending at least 50% of your reimbursement on food. If you follow the KidKare, if you're on KidKare or you're transitioning and you follow that checklist, your cost of food use will be done for you. So that's something that you're gonna be able to not have to fill out anymore when you make that transition over to KidKare. So, of course, your cycle menus, which you turn into us whenever you start with the program, you're going to be entering also in the minute menu, and it's a requirement of CACFP to have cycle menus. We have a variety of foods, and that they all meet the components of the food program. Your training and monitoring, you have to do at least 2 trainings a year and 3 monitorings a year. I think we have slides on that later. Your policies and procedures, we check for this every review as well, and I have a list of those later. And of course, you have to be licensed by licensing and have fire marshal approval to participate in CACFP. So back to the policies and procedures, we have examples of all of these on our website. We do check for them on a review. We hand you copies on your pre-approvals. So if you don't have these, make sure to incorporate them in your handbooks. So a written compensation plan is a requirement if you want to get the federal funds from CACFP. So that's just going to outline in your employee handbook about you know, how much like pay rates, how people get raises, sick leave, things like that. You also need to have an outside employment policy. And that is just something to say, hey, we're doing the food program. We don't want you to have any job outside that interferes with your food program responsibilities. So you can't do Etsy stuff while you're filling out food program paperwork. So it's just basically something that addresses that. A non-discrimination policy, which has been updated last July. So you may want to go on our website and update that non-discrimination policy to the current verbiage. And then your employee policies and procedures, which the critical program functions. And that document just basically tells you and us who's responsible for which part of the food program. So you're going to go in and again, we have examples of all of these policies on our website, but you're going to go in and say, the director is responsible for menu worksheets, or the cook is responsible for meal counts, and you're going to outline who's responsible for what. So if we find, if there's a finding on that, we know who to go to help correct that. So that's what the critical program functions does for you. Now, every year, because you're receiving federal funds, you're required by USDA to do a civil rights training annually. So every year you do a civil rights training with your staff. And we just have some examples here of videos. There's nothing really, we don't have a specific training that you need to do, but if you Google CACFP civil rights trainings, there's a lot of good examples on the internet. And here's some examples for you if you want to go over those policies with your staff. So training and monitoring. When you complete your applications every year, you tell us when you're going to train your staff, and civil rights is required, and we do record keeping as well because it's such a important part of the food program. I mean, it's a lot of paper, you guys know, which it'll be a lot less when you transition over to KidKare, but it is a lot of record keeping. And so we ask that you train twice a year, and y'all let us know on your application when you're going to do that and what topics you're going to be training on. So you do want to check on your applications to make sure that you do those trainings in the months that you list on your sponsor application. And we don't, again, it's not, we don't tell you which training materials. You're just going to do a sign-in sheet, and we have examples of the training sign-in sheets on our website as well. And you're going to just put down the materials that you train them with in a folder for a review. Now, the monitoring is basically you're going to do a mock review of your sites. And you're going to do that 3 times a year, and twice a year you have to do it unannounced. So you're going to go in and look at all the things that we look at on a review. You're going to do a 5-day reconciliation where you're going to match your attendance, enrollment, and your meal count just to make sure that people are doing it correctly. And if you have many sites, this is really important because it's going to give you a window into how they're doing that. And if maybe you can correct some errors that might be findings when your state staff comes out for review. I did want to say right now that our monitoring is on paper, but shortly we will have that electronic in KidKare, and our KidKare reps are working to get that programmed in for you guys. So hopefully that'll be one less paper form. Well, it will be one less paper form, hopefully shortly. But right now, we still want you to go on and use our monitoring forms that are on our website. And if you want to see what months you said you were going to fill out your monitorings, make sure to go back to your sponsor application, and it's in there. And you want to do your monitorings on those months. So it's just a mock review to help you find out any problems that might be going on at your site. And it's just a helpful tool to help you correct any issues that you find when you go out. So another major part of the food program is enrollment. And I know we harp on this when we go out, but we in order to classify students for free, reduced, or above, or for free, you can use the SNAP card. Now, in Louisiana, we do have Louisiana purchase cards that don't count for free and reduced applications. And that's because we have a lot of hurricanes and we get disaster SNAP, so D-SNAP cards, or we had the PEBT cards, or the pandemic benefits. So there are children that have, or whose families have, Louisiana purchase cards that don't necessarily mean that they meet the qualifications for free lunch. So we want y'all to make sure that when you look at a Louisiana purchase card, if the parent brings it, that you're using the right number. And I know there's that big long credit card number. That is not the number we are looking for. What we're looking for is the case ID number, or the CID number, which is what you would get if you do actually qualify for SNAP. So it's a 9-digit number, and used to be that it started with a 00, but they have, I think we've exceeded that number, and we've seen others that may be a 100. So be on the lookout for that. You want to make sure that you have the correct Louisiana purchase case ID number. And they're not always printed on the cards anymore. They used to print it on every card. If it's not on the card, the parents can get it from the DCFS website when they log into their CAFE portal, or they can call their caseworker to get that number. So just make sure if it starts with a 99, it's probably a PEBT card. Make sure to get that CID number, or case ID number, and that will automatically qualify them for free. So here's our favorite free and reduced price application. If you have the CID number, that qualifies them for free lunch. So you don't need to fill out just follow the instructions on the form. Part, I think it's 2, is where if you have that CID number, you can skip that portion. But we want to make sure that your applications are current. So remember, they're only good for 1 year. And best practice, we tell you, get new forms when you start your new fiscal year, which is October 1st. If that form is outdated, you're not supposed to claim that child anymore. So make sure that the year is current, that your forms are not outdated. And if you are so KidKare has the option to do e-forms, which I love because it automatically does the math for you. So we don't see errors on classification. And it auto-populates your enrollment based on whether or not the forms are current. So it's not going to let you claim a child whose form is over a year old. So you won't get in trouble with that portion of your review. So if you're still using paper forms, make sure to, which you can, even if you're on KidKare, you can still use paper forms. The feedback I'm getting in the field is that the e-forms the parents are, they can come to your center and fill it out on your computer if they don't have a home computer. But the centers that I know that have used it feel like the parents have really responded well to this. So make sure a free and reduced meal price application for every child that you're claiming. Super important. Don't claim them if you don't have that form in, or if you do have an incomplete form, make sure they're marked as above. Anyway, just some high points on the free and reduced price meal application. So we are a food program, and the feds have requirements as to what type of food that you serve. So they have component requirements and portion size requirements to make sure you're feeding the right type and the right amounts of food. And if you don't, then you can't claim those meals. So I'm going to touch on the meal patterns, but I do want to mention that when you're entering in your menus on KidKare, it makes sure that you have the correct amounts of food, types of food, and it will prompt you on the amounts to cook based on your past attendance and your current attendance. So it's a very good tool to help you not make mistakes on your meal patterns. So when you're entering in your menus, it's going to say, you know, you forgot your milk for breakfast, or you forgot your grain for lunch, or, oh no, we forgot a whole grain. So if you're not on KidKare yet, make sure to check that you meet all of these components for each meal. But I think you would have a really good edit check when you make the transition over to KidKare. When you're entering in your menus, it's going to find all those errors that we would find when we come out for a review. So not to harp on it, but we do have this, October is fast approaching. So we're going to give you the information on how to sign up for the KidKare trainings. Well, I'll tell you now, because I'm sure we'll have some questions on it. success@kidkare.com, and just tell them how many sites you have, and ask for to be put onto their trainings, their guide trainings. Super helpful. So infants, we want to make sure that you guys are claiming your infants. We see this a lot in the field where everybody's scared of the infant menu worksheets and meal patterns, and it's really not that complicated, and you're leaving money on the table. And the feds don't want you to not claim your infants. In fact, if you're offering meal service to your older children, you have to offer meal service to your infants as well. So let's work on claiming those infants. If you have a mom that breastfeeds on site, that is claimable. The feds USDA does not want to discourage any mothers from breastfeeding. So if a mother provides breast milk, you can still claim that meal, even if she comes there and feeds the baby herself. So make sure to mark those meals down on your paper menu worksheets or in KidKare when we make the transition. So there's 2 different age groups for infants and meal patterns, and it's your birth to 5 months and your 6 to 11. And there's different patterns for both, but it's not very difficult. So you're always going to have formula required for all of your age groups, formula or breast milk. So that is a requirement. In fact, it's the only real requirement for an infant being claimed. However, let me preface this with, your 6 to 11 month olds have additional requirements if they're developmentally appropriate for that baby. So if you have a baby with medical issues, or the parents and doctor don't want the baby to be fed anything but formula, that's okay. Keep the documentation of that. But once the child has started meeting the other components, or able to eat the fruits and vegetables, then you're going to add that into their specific meal pattern and have that requirement for that child. So it is different. You know, we're not going to sit there and say, oh, they turned 6 months, tell mom they've got to start eating. No, it is something that you're going to work with the families and their physicians on when it's developmentally appropriate for each child. So you make sure to follow the meal patterns whenever it becomes appropriate for their age group. So make sure to get free and reduced meal applications on infants. And if you're feeding a child formula, I forgot to mention, a parent may only provide one of the components for an infant. So keep that in mind when they start. If they want to bring everything, they are only allowed to provide one if you're going to claim that child. But we do want you, I'm not saying if a parent wants to bring all the food or needs to bring all the food that you can't, but if you're going to claim them, they may only provide one component. So if formula is a component that you're offering as a center, it needs to be FDA approved. So anything on the WIC list is okay. Just make sure that it is an FDA approved formula. And also remember, if you're not claiming that infant, get a free and reduced price application on them as well. They're considered enrolled. So, medical exemptions. If you have a child that has a food allergy and you need to make substitutions, if that substitution that you make meets the requirement, you don't need a medical exemption. But if it's something different, let's say a parent says, if a child's allergic to milk and the parent says, well, I want my child to be on soy milk. If the soy milk meets the requirements to be the same nutrition quality as milk, then that's okay. But if it doesn't, let's say the parent says, I want my child to have only water. Well, water does not meet the nutritional guidelines for milk. So you're going to need a medical form on that child. And it's just going to have to say what the disability is, what needs to be done to accommodate the disability, and keep that on file. So remember, if somebody's allergic to peaches and you decide to serve them pears, well, that's the same equivalent. It meets the component requirements. You don't need a doctor's note for those types of substitutions, but you will if it's something that doesn't, it's not, if it's apples to oranges, like milk for water, you can't do that without a doctor's note on file. So if you are, I'm not sure if we have any at-risk sites on here. If you're a daycare center, turn off your ears for a second because this doesn't apply to you. But if you're an at-risk or an adult care center and you serve only one meal per day and you're using offer versus serve, all of the grains that you offer have to be whole grain rich. So keep that in mind. If you're only serving one meal per day, and that happens in at-risk, let's say you're just serving at-risk supper, your grain has to be whole grain. So, like I said, if you're a daycare center, this is not for you. You cannot do offer versus serve. You have to, everybody gets the same plate, but this is only for breakfast, lunch, and supper meals for at-risk and adults. Adult care sites. So that is your grain guideline and your grain reminder for your at-risk sites. Debbie?
All right. Do we have any questions for Jody at this point? We will be asking for questions again at the end of today's presentation, but we have some time right now. Does anybody have any questions or would like any clarifications on what we've been over so far? And you guys will be getting a copy of this presentation. It'll be uploaded to the FitKids site, and we'll send out a blast email when it's ready for you guys to download or print and review. Okay, milk requirements. Milk is something critically important. It is one of the required components for breakfast and for lunch. So we want to just quickly touch on these requirements. Infants to 12 months old, as Jody said, breast milk or formula. 1-year-old children, okay, whole milk. So, and I guess there have been some misconceptions in the past. So your 1-year-old children, these are your 12 to 23-month-old children. Okay, they must get whole milk. They do need that added fat for brain development. So that's why they get whole milk. 2 years old and over, and adults need to have a skim or a 1% milk. Um, I've been going out for this month. I've already been to 2 sites, and they were fairly new sites, where they were serving 2% milk. And they were unable to we returned those claims. They're unable to claim, because 2% milk does not meet, it's not a correct component in the child and adult care food program. So again, 2 years old and older, it's 1% or skim milk. So make sure that you're serving the correct type of milk. Any non-dairy beverages that are nutritionally equivalent to cow's milk, again, could be served in place of cow's milk with that special need, either like Jody discussed, like a doctor's note, a parent note for religious or vegetarian or personal reasons, as long as it's nutritionally equivalent. Okay. Children without medical restrictions um, have to be served a nutritionally equivalent milk substitute, um, like quite possibly if it fits in with them, a soy or an almond milk. Now, one thing I do want to explain to this is that we haven't mentioned anything about flavored milks. Okay. So for children 5 and younger, we do not allow flavored milk. So if they're bringing in almond or soy milk, please make sure that it's the regular flavor, that it's not vanilla or chocolate or strawberry or has some type of flavoring in it. So keep that in mind. I see we have a question. Miss Marie, you have a child with a doctor's note for no milk of any kind, and you don't claim that child. Is that correct? Um, for now, yes, that is correct. Um, I would maybe you and I can talk or email me after this. I'm going to want to know a little bit more about this child's condition. Maybe we can come up with something, but I don't want to get into a medical conversation. But I'd sure like to know, Miss Marie, a little bit more about this child's particular case. Um, so if you wouldn't mind at the end, we'll list our emails and our phone call and our phone numbers. So please call me about that, and maybe we can discuss it a little bit more. So meal pattern requirements. Just in general, the greater variety of fruits and vegetables that you serve um, is one of the benefits of this program. I- One of the main purposes of the Child and Adult Care Food Program is to expose children to quite possibly the fruits and the vegetables and the items that they are not getting at home, just to broaden their horizons, um, and provide them with a higher quality or better quality of foods to meet their nutritional needs. Juice can only be served one time a day and never to infants. Okay. I want to say this one more time. Juice only one time a day and never to infants. Um, and then one serving of grains per day must be whole grain rich. We do quite often, when we're in the field, people think they have to serve every grain a whole grain, and that's not accurate. One grain per day um, must be whole grain rich, okay? And the rest of the grains throughout the day must be enriched. Um, and then no grain-based desserts, okay? This one has been going on since about 2017, and unfortunately, we still are seeing some grain-based desserts on the menus, like Rice Krispie treats, like Pop Tarts, like Fig Newtons, and little sweet bars of those kinds. But none of that is allowed since October 1st of 2017. The only two technically sweet grain or grain-based desserts would be animal crackers and graham crackers. Technically, they are considered crackers. So there are more protein options, okay? And we still have the cereal and yogurt sugar restrictions. The yogurt cannot contain any more than 23 grams of sugar per 6 ounce, and breakfast cereals can't have more than 6 grams of sugar per dry ounce. We have something brand new um, to bring to you guys. I don't know if you guys ever have remembered in past presentations, this is where we would go off and we would show you how to calculate the grams of sugars and in yogurt and in cereal, and you would look up on a chart to make sure that that it was indeed, allowed to be served. But Jody brought this to our attention, and we wanted to bring this to you guys. This is an app on your phone. Okay. This is a CACFP shopper app. It's created by the Iowa Department of Education. It's you can download it if you're either Apple or Android. This is going to walk you through determining whether if something is a whole grain or not, and this is going to do the math on the sugar limits. Okay, and that is going to be updating next year. Okay, so this is a wonderful app. Um, you can download this and start playing with it because it is very helpful um, to help you determine some different types of foods that you can be serving. And again, you'll be getting this presentation if you don't have time to find that on your phone now. Menu worksheets, another one of our required components. Okay. Um, we do need to see these whenever we come out for reviews and TAs. They have to be completed daily. Okay. We are really working hard to try to get everybody on to KidKare to where these menu worksheets are electronic. Okay. Um, because it always helps when you have to put the measurable amount. Okay. Like in KidKare, you just click on the little arrow and you can click what type of can, what size can, how many ounces, how many pounds of whatever you're serving. Um, so it really takes a lot of the guesswork out of doing these menu worksheets, and it really prevents you from making a lot of mistakes when you use the electronic versions of these menu worksheets. Okay. All food items must meet the USDA component and portion size requirements, and the total number of participants served needs to be accurate and based upon um, the age groups that they're in, because that's how you're going to know if you're serving enough. Okay, and that's how we know if you're serving enough. Not only the correct components, but the correct portion sizes of those components. We have another app for you. This is the Food Buying Guide mobile app. Okay. I don't know. You guys, some of you guys have been with us a while, and some of you guys are fairly new on the presentation today. But for you guys that have been here for a while, I know Miss Kay's been around for a little bit. Miss Kay, what do you guys remember the big binders of the Food Buying Guide? It was like thick like an old-timey phone book or something. Um, that has since been updated, and this is the Food Buying Guide mobile app. Okay, again, it's on iOS and Android platforms. You can search for foods, you can look up meal components, you can create a favorites list of your foods, and you can even email, print out, and search results of food comparisons um, just by using this app. So things are getting a lot more user friendly and a lot more helpful um, with people coming out with these apps. We're going to change focus here a little bit. It's time to talk about finances, everybody's favorite subject. So, penny for penny, dollar for dollar. We track every penny and every dollar that you receive from the food program from USDA to when it's exhausted. Okay, so this is why we tell you you have to maintain all of your receipts and all of your invoices. Okay, and this includes your timesheets if you're transferring any labor. And we'll check it against your bank statement and canceled checks. And we check to make sure that you're spending at least 50% of your funds on food purchase that actually goes into the kids' stomachs. Okay. So if you receive, just for math, simple purposes, if you receive $5,000 a month, when we come in and audit, we're going to need to track. We want to see how every penny is spent just to make sure that we're getting the most bang for our buck and that we are truly providing the children with what they need. So, for finances, we're just going to talk briefly about our inventory control sheet. And there have been some confusion in the field. Um, and you do need to conduct your inventory at the end of each month. You include all unused and unopened food items in your pantry, in your refrigerator, and in your freezer, including and especially milk. Okay. Um, whether you're on paper forms or KidKare, you're going to do this inventory on paper, and the first thing that you're going to include is the milk. It's that important, okay? Because we're going to be running milk audits on everybody just to make sure that you're serving enough milk. So please always include your milk first. And on your inventory sheets, it'll include your ending balance for the month that's what you're going to start off with the next month. Okay, so that just carries over. Okay. So your CACFP reimbursement spent on your monthly food costs it needs to be at least 50%. Okay. Include all purchases made from your CACFP bank account, your general account, and cash purchases. When we don't generally like people to to deal with cash. But if we understand that everybody's days are busy and sometimes you need to do what you need to do. So if somebody's already at the store and has cash, save that receipt, okay? Especially if they're buying anything with food and milk on it for the children, and include that in your CACFP finances to make sure that you can account for that. Okay. So when you're talking about food costs, you're not going to want to include purchases, things like napkins, straws, dishwashing detergent, your gloves, your kitchen garbage bags, things like that. Those are going to be your non-food items. You're only going to want to include in that cost of food used your food purchases. Okay, so that's anything that can be eaten. Reimbursement rates. Okay, this is how you get your money every year. Okay, this is what USDA is allowing you, is what they're paying you per meal. So for breakfast, and it's broken out with breakfast, lunch, and supper, and then snack. So for breakfast, for every free child that you have for breakfast, you're getting reimbursed $1, basically $1.71, and then $1.41 and 29. You need to make sure, and these are automatically uploaded into our system and automatically uploaded into the claim system to where you don't have to worry about these. Okay. We just want you to know that these are published. These come out from USDA and they're published usually by the end of July every year. So, and these numbers do change um, annually. Okay. So if you're wanting to know what you're expecting, but just make sure that your year is current. Okay. And it'll tell you exactly what you're going to be reimbursed. So how are you going to submit your claims to us? You're going to upload that electronically. If you're on KidKare, you are going to create a file and then upload that file to us. Your reimbursement is based on your allowable meals served, not on any expenses or money spent. Um, again, we're in the field a lot more these days, and sometimes I think people think the more that they can spend, the more money they get back. But that's not necessarily true. Okay, your reimbursement is based upon the categories, the number of children that you serve, the category that they're at, whether they're free, reduced, or above, and then the number of meals that they eat. That's what your reimbursement is based on. Your approved budget directs you how to spend the reimbursement of funds. Okay. You have 60 calendar days to file. With the state of Louisiana, if you wait until the 61st calendar day after that month is closed, it will not allow you to submit that claim. Okay, you can use a one-time exception, and that is tracked in our system. So you can use a one-time exception to be able to ask that claim be allowed for whatever hardship or whatever reason. But that again, that's a one-time exception. So please make sure that you have um, everything together in order to be able to submit your claims timely, so you don't have an interruption in the funds that you receive. Okay. It usually takes about 7 to 10 working days after you submit your claim um, for that payment to be processed. Um, we don't have any of this money here at the state. It'll go through our audit process here. Your money will be ordered from USDA. USDA sends it to us and we will release it to you. That's the process. At least twice a year, okay? Um, and we know at state year end and then at the fiscal year end, we tell you your claims are going to be a little bit late. Okay. So again, be prepared for that. In July, when the new rates come out, and then usually in December, um, your claims will be a little bit late until they can close out their month and then do the year end, and then they'll start processing um, claims again. Okay. But again, follow your checklists. Um, those are very important checklists, gives you a lot of good information. A compliance monitoring review visit. Okay. The state agency, okay, and we follow 7 CFR 226. That's the CFR is the Code of Federal Regulations. These are the rules that we follow. They're set out from the feds. In addition to USDA and federal state officials, we have the right to make announced and unannounced reviews of any institution or facility as needed to ascertain compliance with CACFP regulations. Okay. So basically, this is in your agreement that you sign with us um, that we are allowed, actually, us or the feds are allowed to come out and conduct compliance monitoring review visits. And that's what we do. Okay. Your first compliance monitoring review will be conducted within the first year of your program operation. Okay. And we also come out for a technical assistance visit. If any of you guys need any assistance from us we can't work it out over the phone or through a Zoom call, you can request that we come out for a TA visit. Uh, um, and that's where we will provide you um, as much technical assistance as we can. If anything's wrong, we'll go ahead and we'll work with you to get that fixed, just to make sure that you are running the best program that you possibly can. If we need to talk about menus, if we need to talk about components, um, we usually go in for a technical assistance visit and we'll do a mock review. Okay. We will both sit there um, and we will go through all the forms. We'll go through all of the screens on KidKare and we'll talk about each one. We'll make sure that all of your questions are answered, that you have the maximum comfort level with administering this program as possible. Okay, and we love doing those. Okay. The second review could be conducted earlier than 3 years. It just depends upon where we're at in our review cycle. Okay. So the maximum that we can go is every 3 years, but it can be more often than that. A few little odds and ends. Okay. Um, SAM, there's never a charge to register for SAM. Okay. Um, it's usually every year we haven't heard them lately, but usually people will start getting emails and they want to charge you like $750 or whatever to register for SAM. Um, please don't do that. There's never a charge to register for SAM. You can do that yourself. The DUNS number, I just wanted to let you guys know that effective April 4th of 2022, the federal government is no longer using the DUNS numbers. So now you don't have to worry about your DUNS numbers. You just go into sam.gov once a year, okay? And you log in and that keeps you active in sam.gov, okay? We also, we can, that the food program will allow you to pay for certain types of equipment purchases. Okay. If you have excess funds or if you have the money in the CACFP account to, for example, pay for a stove if the stove is broken or the refrigerator, um, you will get on our website. You will pull down the request for equipment purchase and follow those guidelines and submit that to us. Um, and we'll take a look at that and either be able to tell you that you can purchase it with food program funds or you might be able to pay for part of it with food program funds. Okay. But that is an option as well with the equipment purchase request. We've got some internet resources available for you guys, okay? Our CSCFP website, cnp.doe.louisiana.gov, and just some other um, websites, links that we wanted to provide to you guys, hopefully making things a little bit easier throughout your day and giving you guys what you need. Again, our supervisor here has is stated that KidKare will be mandatory by October 1st. Okay, and we knew October 1st is the beginning of the next fiscal year. Sometime in probably August, you will have new applications coming out from the state of Louisiana. And we know you guys are busy. Okay. We know that. We see it every single day. Please don't wait until the end. Okay. Please don't wait, you know, before summer would probably be a better time to do that. Um, just please, again, we're just urging people don't wait until the deadline um, to do that. Just I wanted to share with you some KidKare Minute Menu help screens. KidKare has extensive training videos on their website. Use the knowledge base. These are the exact screenshots. This is what it looks like. Okay. And there's your success@kidkare.com email at the bottom. Here is how to contact us. This is everybody on our staff, all of our email addresses, and telephone numbers. You should never, ever, ever have any trouble reaching us. Okay. And one thing that I do want to take this time is if you have a question, there are no silly questions. There are no, um, there's no time that you really can't call us or email us when you have a question. Um, one of the things that just kind of upsets me a little bit is that um, we'll have sponsors and we'll have managers who will call other centers and ask them questions. Okay. Well, depending upon or not if that center's on our program, um, they could be given incorrect or maybe not the most precise answers. So please, before you before you ask around, please call us or just send us a quick little email and ask us, hey, is this okay? Um, I'm having some issues with this, or tell me what to do with this. My children won't eat this anymore. I need greater variety on my menu. Go ahead and give us a call. That's what we're here for. We're here to support you and to make sure um, that we can do as much as possible to make your days go smoother with this program. Any questions at this time? I'll go ahead and leave our staff list up. It is 1:55 and our training is scheduled from 1 to 2 today. So we want to be sensitive of your needs. One thing I do want to let you guys know that if you have attended today, if you've stayed on and logged in for longer than 45 minutes, for our 1 hour session today, you will be receiving the email which states that you have clock hours from the Louisiana Pathways system. And that email will serve as your certificate for attendance today. So you'll be getting that by Friday of this week. And we will have, I will be uploading the copy of this presentation and the handouts that will also be on the Fit Kids website, and we'll send out an email blast when that is ready. When you can review the recording of this session and the handouts, we will have that to you as well. Okay, but if you're listening to this on the recording, you will not be receiving an email for attendance for Pathways. Any questions?